Hello, you're watching TelecomTV. I'm Yanica Boyadzieva, and I'm in our London studio to find out how software-as-a-service models are making an impact on the telecom sector, as network operators increasingly adopt cloud-oriented strategies, and hyperscalers play a more influential role in the industry. I'm delighted to be joined by Mark Bunn, Vice President of Software as a Service Business Operations at Nokia Cloud and Network Services, to learn more about the vendor's work in this area. Hi Mark, thank you for joining us. Firstly, can you tell us why Nokia started offering software as a service solutions?
Yeah, certainly, Yanni. I think it'd be an understatement to say that the communications industry has been going through rapid change and advancement. I'd argue that the most interesting changes have come in the last 10 years, which is a bold assertion given the heritage of this industry. Cloud and cloud native are now mainstream technologies, although not necessarily resulting in easier operations and management as once thought. So consequently, we see more of the technology being pushed back to the vendors to own and to operate. And this is where SaaS becomes a compelling value as it changes the focus of the operator from specializing in technology to driving better customer outcomes. Now, we at Nokia had recognized this undercurrent and have taken steps to become an industry leader in what we call telecom SaaS. So let me give you some definition, Yanni, of what we mean by telecom SaaS. Nokia defines telecom SaaS as a service delivering a business outcome, often bought as a subscription based on cloud native software, delivered with a fully digitalized business experience and a fully automated services lifecycle designed for carrier-grade workload delivery. What distinguishes telecom SaaS from standard IT software as a service is that telecom SaaS is designed specifically to handle the rigors of managing telco workloads. So keep in mind that when an IT SaaS workload fails, the service itself is effectively off the grid. But in contrast, when a telecom SaaS workload fails, the grid is down because it is indeed the grid. So in contrast, um, there's a much higher degree of rigor and responsibility when it comes to managing network-oriented workloads on the cloud and providing them as SaaS. It involves a significant degree of specialized capabilities around scalability, resiliency, performance, security, but these are capabilities that are designed into Nokia SaaS services and the supporting framework on which all of the Nokia SaaS services are delivered.
So, can you talk us through Nokia's software as a service strategy and how it has progressed since you launched the first solutions a year ago?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If I were to summarize, we're following a launch, operate, and scale approach. We spent 2021, much of 2021, and the first half of 2022 launching new SaaS services, 9 to be exact, while simultaneously establishing the technical and commercial platforms to deliver and monetize these services. So these 9 services, they fall into a variety of different categories. I like to refer to them as families. The families are analytics, network management, monetization, device management, security. And we purposefully started with discrete individual services, but we're going to continue to evolve these services into comprehensive suites that share common technical architectures as well as common commercial frameworks. We've also started to assemble end-to-end SaaS solutions or value chains, if you will, that are predicated or based on the individual SaaS service, those individual SaaS services we launched, and we're using them as building blocks. So an example of a solution, a SaaS solution, would be a secure 5G core network available on demand. Finally, we're going to enable extensibility and programmability in an abstraction layer on top of the SaaS services so that our customers, our partners, and ecosystem developers can further augment and add monetizable value. And so we refer to this concept, this extensibility capability, as network as code. In 2023 and beyond, we're going to continue to evolve these services. We'll move in the directions of suite and solutions, as I referenced, and we'll scale the business.
This is all very exciting and very interesting. So what is Nokia's core software as a service offering, and how is it different from your standalone 5G core offering?
Nokia's core software as a service offering is one that is still in the works. It hasn't been launched yet, but it will be launched soon. We use the same cloud native software regardless of the delivery model. I think that's a very important point for the listeners to hear, whether it's SaaS or non-SaaS. It's the same content, the same capability, the same software. For the SaaS model, Nokia will do something different, a little different. We'll instantiate the 5G standalone network automatically based on configuration parameters that the customer provides, and we'll manage the full service lifecycle on behalf of the customer using our internal SaaS delivery technology. So in so doing, the time to value for the customer is significantly improved, with an operational 5G network available within hours of the start of the initialization, which compares quite favorably to the typical projects that can take months, weeks, and months just to stand up the network. Now, as far as the characteristics of the network, the scalability, for instance, will be very similar, regardless of the deployment model, although elements or characteristics like scalability are dependent on the underlying configuration of the cloud deployment, which could vary depending on the customer requirements for availability as well as for redundancy.
And have the software as a service solutions been developed for the same types of customers that use Nokia's traditional product portfolio?
Our target markets for SaaS are communication service providers and enterprises who need communications technology. So in essence, every company on the planet is a potential customer of SaaS. Now, I do expect that there are some customers or some customer types that would gravitate more quickly to software as a service than others. The company has to have the right mindset to adopt SaaS, and successful SaaS adopters would recognize the improved agility as well as the reduced total cost of ownership that's inherent with the SaaS model. Without being comprehensive, some of the top of mind SaaS benefits include the ability to rapidly adopt, use the service, get value out of the service very quickly because we can bring it to life much sooner than we do in the standard model. Mature SaaS services permit automated scaling and on-demand resource availability that is in accordance with the actual needs. So there's no, in a mature SaaS service, there's no need to over-provision. Provisioning happens quickly, so SaaS services are typically available for use within hours. I mentioned that with regard to your question about the core SaaS offering that we're bringing to market. Customers remain up to date. That's a frequent problem that we see in the industry, is that software goes stale, and our customers have to plan typically long projects or plan out projects at least to bring their software up to date. But we keep the software all up to date on behalf of the customer with efficient delivery of patches and versions, which also helps to mitigate the financial risks associated with self-maintenance. One of the important characteristics and benefits is shared risk. Typically, in a current typical deployment model, the customer spends a lot upfront, and then there's a long project behind that upfront spend. In a SaaS model, the upfront investment, it tends to be limited, and there's much more tangible incentive for the SaaS service provider to partner with the SaaS service consumer. So we really truly build partnerships as a result of the implementation of this model. Already mentioned TCO. There should be compelling economies of scale. No need to make some upfront investments in data center technologies. Also, one way that I see companies using software as a service, and this happens a lot with either startup companies or relatively small companies that are growing fast, or even the flanker brands of a larger company, is they want to experiment in markets to see how successful they can be. Using software as a service could be a vehicle for that. It lowers the entry barriers to market evaluation, allows companies to experiment with a market before deciding to go all in, if I can use that term. And then one area also where I think software as a service is going to be key is we're going to see a growing, evolving ecosystem in our industry of the future. And I think software as a service can be used as a tool to facilitate ecosystem partners and customers in co-creation of that monetizable value I referred to earlier, which is developed on top of the foundational networks and the accompanying network services.
That's all very interesting. So what will the future look like for network operators and enterprises in the telecom software as a service field?
Um, Look, as specialized hardware continues to disaggregate, that is a pattern that's been happening now for the last decade, and it's going to continue. The software itself is going to become the central focus to an increasing degree. And software, you provided as a highly, or provided as a service in a highly automated way, it's going to be an important element to our ability to realize the full potential of 5G advanced to 6G, which is really where the market is headed. Let's take a little bit of a step back and see if I can build a narrative for you to make this clear. Look, if we ask the question, what's the primary objective of 5G? Someone would answer it's about the enhanced mobile broadband and ultra reliable low latency and the machine to machine communications. But more fundamentally, I think 5G is about connectedness. It's about connected everything. It's about connecting people and companies and factories and vehicles, devices, etc. Now, connectivity in and of itself is a means to an end. It's there to enable valuable use cases that we use in business and in our daily lives. And in fact, the last few years, we've been searching for killer use cases, which I define as those high revenue generators to justify our 5G spend. The reality, though, that we're seeing is that 5G return on investment, it's only going to be realized in time. And it's going to be done through the accumulation of several use cases. We also now know that these use cases, as they evolve, they're going to be underpinned by innovative edge networking solutions such as MAC or multi-access edge compute, fixed wireless access, and private wireless networks. They're going to be needed for delivery, but they're also going to be supported by the radio, the core, the transport, the traditional networks that we've known. My conclusion is that if there is a single use killer use case, if we wanted to define it that way, it's the network itself. However, this killer network, if you will, it has to be secure. It has to be AI and ML enabled. It has to be orchestrated. It has to be programmable. It has to be available on demand in order to keep up with where we're going, right? So where we're going with in this industry and where we want to land in this outcome of connected everything. How do we achieve it? I think we achieve it with SaaS. I think SaaS is an overlooked ingredient. It helps us to enable our desired future state. In my opinion, it's a much needed tool that's been missing from our toolkit. It can help to provide business and technical agility that we need to support needs that we have today, such as standby networks for high availability and disaster recovery, all the way to the other end of the spectrum, future needs that are under development, even under imagination in the consumer, in the enterprise, and the industrial metaverses. So my main point is that SaaS itself is an acceleration engine for us to be able to realize the full potential of 5G and beyond, which is where indeed the industry is headed.
These are all very interesting insights you shared with us, and we'll be very interested in seeing how software as a service looks in the future. Mark, thank you for speaking to us today.
Well, thank you very much for the time. Appreciate it, Yanni.